I'm joined by Mohammed Munir. He's a virologist at Lancaster University in England. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, I wanted to ask you. We've been warned about variants before. Not that long ago, we were doing segments about the UK variant, and our top experts were warning it could trigger a fourth wave here in the US, and that surge didn't really happen, not in any significant way. Obviously, that was before we had as many people vaccinated as we do now, but still, from a public perception perspective, is there a danger here that people might tune out the warnings about this variant? So compare the Delta variant to the others we've seen. What makes this one so worrisome?
Well, thank you, Kim, for having me on the show. I think one of the important things with this Delta variant is really it got unique mutations. Those mutations haven't been seen individually in any of the other variants. That making it more strongly to bind to our cells and internalize, which make it much more contagious. And looking on to the current picture globally, with 80 countries reporting, and it's becoming predominant in many countries, including US, 10% of the cases belonging to this variant. All these indicates that so far, all the variants that we have seen, Delta variant seems to be more contagious and more dangerous. And primarily, one reason that make it more dangerous is because it is escaping the immunity, and also it is becoming much more transmissible in particularly unvaccinated population.
Yeah, so just from a UK perspective, as an example, the UK has been particularly hard hit, and it seems it's being spread primarily by young people. So give us a sense of what's happening there. What are you seeing?
Absolutely. Well, if we look onto the picture until today, in England, we have 315 counties. Out of these, 285 counties are the ones that are reporting cases, and all of them are belonging to the Delta variant. And in England, 80% of the country is having an increased number of cases. And looking on to all the sequences of the positive cases, 99% of those positive cases belonging to the Delta variant. And this is more spread into poor communities, communities where the vaccine hesitancy has been, and in all, population where the vaccine hasn't been rolled out at that scale, we're able to have some level of barrier against the spread of this infection. Because of this Delta variant becoming more and more transmissible and covering wider communities, even if it is not dangerous, it certainly will take a larger toll onto the death. And that is what we start seeing here in the UK.
Yeah, I saw there was a study of cases in Scotland that was published, I think it was this week, that found that the risk of hospital admission with that variant was roughly double compared to the Alpha or UK variant. So you mentioned the vaccine. I mean, exactly, basically for people who've been vaccinated, who are watching this, are you essentially protected? Is there nothing to worry about here?
Well, one thing is pretty clear, Kim, is that it's better to have vaccine than not having it, because if we look on to the number of people who've been ended up in hospital in the UK or ultimately died, unfortunately, vast majority of people are the ones that are unvaccinated. From, for example, in the hospitalized people, around 806 people are hospitalized very recently. Out of those, 65% are the ones that are unvaccinated, which really indicates that if you're not vaccinated, chances for you to end up in hospital after getting the Delta variant in particular is extremely high. So overall, getting a vaccine is much better than having a COVID-19 infection, particularly with the new variants like Delta variant.
Yeah, and then there are so many communities who it have been hard to reach with these vaccinations. This all comes in the context of opening up. Here in Georgia, for example, I mean, everything's pretty much back to normal. We've seen the EU now dropping the travel restrictions for many countries, including for the US here. So what's the fear as we are opening up more and more, as we're traveling more and more, and this variant is becoming more and more dominant?
Absolutely, that is the most worrying point at this moment, is because this variant, whenever it gets the chance to spread, either by opening up the borders or to the unvaccinated communities or communities who cannot be vaccinated for one another reason, this variant would have the potential to mutate even more, because there is always immune pressure within the community. And any more mutation that come on making these variants more and more transmissible, more dangerous. And I think one of the important aspects that we have to make sure, I mean, we've been saying this one right from the beginning of this pandemic, is that vaccines need to be rolled out very quickly, because earlier we could vaccinate the the population around the world, minimum about 70 to 75% population, better chances we would have to have an open economy around globally. And the Delta variant is particularly of concerns as the number of countries, 80 plus countries, are reporting in relatively shorter time that clearly dictate how transmissible and dangerous could it end up.
Yeah, and we're still a long, long way from herd immunity globally here. Thank you so much for speaking with us, virologist Mohammed Munir. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
As we mentioned,